Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be here to talk to you about some of the exciting work that we are doing in our team on conversation. Conversations are really central to what it is to be human. And when you just take a moment to think about how we connect with one another, one of the most basic ways in which we can share our ideas. So when we get that really, really brilliant idea that no one else has thought of and you want to convey it to someone else, or when you find yourself in a moment where you disagree with, say, your spouse about something that you should do together, and you have to find consensus in order to reach agreement, you need to have these conversations. Or even when you find, you meet someone for the first time and you're like, wow, that person is so cool, but they're a stranger, but I want to get to know them better. You go up to them and you start having a conversation, and that could eventually lead you into somewhere really exciting with this new friendship. So we use conversations all the time. It comes very natural to us. While we can do all of these things as humans, there's really something special that's happening as the words are leaving my mouth and then landing on your ears. And if I'm able to communicate that successfully, hopefully I should be able to convey what it is that I'm trying to say to you. And what we want to be able to understand is really how does conversation bring both of our minds to the same place, where we can have a shared understanding of what we're trying to accomplish together, or what we're trying to explain to one another, or even our feelings about each other. So in order to be able to answer this really, really, really big question about how conversation brings our minds together, we need to be able to measure the neural alignment that's happening as we're talking. And so we use this measure. So if you have one person, let's say the person's brain, we scan them and their brain is in yellow, and we can look at the neural activity of their brain across time. So if we plot that and we take at each time point, so these 4 different time points, what the neural activity is as a person, as that person is undergoing a neuroimaging scan and an MRI. And we can do the same thing in another person's brain at the same time points. And we can look at the correlation, so how in sync for each brain region that we're taking in, the yellow person's brain and the purple person's brain, we basically look at the coupling of their neural activity across 2 individuals, or if we want to expand it, basically more than 2 individuals at the time. And so this gives us a measure of neural alignment or neural synchrony. And so my research, I work with a team of really exciting and very wonderful scientists who helped design this experimental approach to be able to study conversation in real time. So we're not just taking recordings and having people, have conversations. We're actually having individuals be in an MRI where one person, there's 2 MRI machines in adjacent rooms. The participant who is in yellow is in one scanner, the participant in purple is in the other scanner, and we are scanning them as they're having conversations with one another. And we have basically 2 different conditions. One condition, as you already heard, is a generate condition. So we provide them with a prompt. So for example, if you had to go to dinner with a famous person, who would that be? And once they are given that prompt, they can then go ahead and just freely talk and bring in their own personal information, and we basically increase the level of intimacy of these questions so that it can help them feel a little bit more connected with one another. The other condition that we have is the read condition, and this is where they're reading a scripted conversation from another dyad, so 2 other individuals that we took all the recordings for, and they are just given the script. So in this read condition is kind of like our control, where they don't provide any personal information to the conversation, but we keep the same structure of the experiment so that we can compare what's happening when they're freely talking and when they have to be, when they're having, they're speaking to one another, but they're reading off of a script. That allows us to get to the question of what's happening when we're just generating the information without any constraints whatsoever about what we want to tell the other person. And so by doing this experiment, we're then able to use our measure of neural alignment, and we compare neural alignment during both of our conditions. So what you're seeing here is a picture of the brain. Areas that are in kind of the warmer colors, those represent increases in neural alignment, so how aligned and in sync their neural activity is between the two partners when they're having these free-flowing conversations. And then in blue, those are the areas when alignment is higher when they're having a scripted conversation. And there are, as you can see across the brain, there's a lot of red happening there. And this basically is the first time that we're seeing that as we're recording individuals in real time, that their neural activity of the partner's dyads aligns a lot of the brain. And when we start looking at specific areas and categorizing and trying to characterize what brain regions stand out, we see that overall brain regions that are important for social thinking, areas that are important for language also appear. And when we take even a step back to look at what overall networks that help in supporting social cognitive, or just general cognitive processes, that areas that are involved in attention seem to be really, really prominent. And so we are really excited about this work because, again, this is the first time that it's being done in using hyperscanning and having people having these naturalistic conversations, and we're really excited to be able to use this method to ask broader questions about how people connect with one another, to see if there's differences in how, if you have conversation partners who have a relationship with each other, whether they show different patterns of alignment, and to just be able to answer questions related to how we use conversation to connect with each other. And with that, I just want to say thank you very much for having me.
Any questions for the doctor? Yes.
Is neural, like the neural synchronization, do you have an idea how that coincides with co-regulation between people?
So does neural
Is
synchronization
that the same thing?
and co-regulation between two people, how are they related? Is that the same thing or are they different things?
So this would be two different things. So here we are just looking at how the activity is correlated with one another, but if you're thinking about regulation, this would allow us to look at potential mechanisms that if we had different conditions where we're testing how they're regulating, maybe like what they're saying, or if you increase the, you're asking participants to have different kind of conversations, say having empathic conversation, having to listen empathically and provide responses that help kind of support the other person. Then in that scenario, you might be able to get a little bit more towards the regulation portion of it. But in this context, here we're just looking at just general activity and looking at alignment in that area.
Thank you. Let's get another question. Let's see.
I have a question.
Well, yeah.
Here's a question here.
So if you have two people and their speech tempos are matched, do you get more cohesion than if they're mismatched? Like one person speaks really slowly and one person speaks much faster, do you get less cohesion in those conditions?
So in this particular experiment, we don't necessarily look at, but there is work that's looking at the speed at which participants speak with one another. So if they have turns between each other that are very, very quick, that work suggests that you're going to see that might relate to just how participants respond about the quality of the conversation, so they'll feel more connected with one another. But in this particular work that we're doing, we are not necessarily looking at those turn lengths for this particular study, but that's something that we can answer.
All right, let's get another question from the audience.
Yes, go ahead.
I know like your experiments are in-person conversations. I wonder if you have any hypothesis for like instant messaging apps that if we talk through digital platforms, would that cause the same kind of alignment or would that be different?
So I think if I had to make a hypothesis about it, if you are texting with someone, you might take a little bit more time. You have to see that really annoying bubble as someone is speaking with you, and that might you might be thinking about what are they, why are they responding, and the context of that would be different. So I would think that as people are having conversations, say via text, that might look a little bit different. But because we see in this particular experiment, as people are talking and not necessarily having those concerns, they still have gaps and all of those things, but they know that they have to answer within a specific period of time. I think that would generate much stronger neural response versus if you were typing, then you might see additional areas that are involved with motor control and that type of thing that might obscure the signal a little bit.